Okay, so here what we're going to do in this video is we're going to recap my thesis. I'm not going to talk about any of the references that I have. I'm not going to give references to the facts that I give. They're all there in my thesis. Please, I invite you to go and read it. It's not very long. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick out key points and demonstrate the crux of my thesis. And then next week, I'm going to take that a little bit further. I'm going to talk about articles and other resources that I have found that push this idea of what the strengths of dyslexia are and how to use them a little bit further. What's important to note with dyslexia is the way our brains work, because they don't work like a regular person. And I really do mean that. And it's not just a learning difficulty. It's not swapping around your B's and your D's. It goes deeper than that. That's just a symptom of what you're seeing. A dyslexic thinks in highly detailed, fully interactive, three-dimensional environments. I'll give you an idea what I mean. When and I've heard the same account from other dyslexics, when we read a book that we're really engrossed in, it becomes like a movie, but more so. When I'm reading a book and somebody gets stabbed, I feel physical pain. I physically feel cold steel going inside of me. Another example of where I've seen this in action is I was playing Call of Duty. The sound was down. I was just playing Call of Duty. There wasn't anything major about it. My mother, who is a nurse, started getting concerned when my character walked into a particularly busy room that had a lot of people fighting, and I started hyperventilating. She actually took my pulse a number of times. I'll relate another story where this is put in context, and I'm going to use a subject from my thesis. My thesis calls him Echo, and I'm going to stick to that to protect his identity. When Echo was about 5 years of age, he knew that fire burnt up, and he knew that the sun was a ball of fire. What he didn't know was why the sun doesn't burn up. Now, this is perfectly logical to most adults, but keep in mind the kid was 5 years of age. Things like gravity in the solar system, nobody had taught him yet. And he went to his mother and said, Mom, why does the sun not burn up? Fire burns up, candles burn up, matches burn up. Why does the sun not burn up? As in physically go up when it burns. His mother explained to him that it was a ball of gas, and that it was burning out, and that it was in space. He thought about this for a second. And then he asked his mother what a gas was. His mother then proceeded to explain to him 3 of the 4 states of matter. She didn't know about plasma, so she left it out. And this satisfied the child for a while. But there was more he wanted to know. Echo's first question after that was, why was it burning in the first place? Something, a simple concept like that. He didn't understand why the sun was burning in the first place. A few years later, after Echo started showing an aptitude for mathematics and logic in school, he was still very young at the time, his father came to him. And his father noticed that he could give Echo any number sequence, and Echo could get the 73rd, the 84th, the 236th number in an instant, as if he wasn't thinking. It didn't matter what number sequence of numbers his father threw at Echo, Echo always came up with the right answer and did it very quickly. His father naturally wanted to know why, so they spoke about it for a short period of time. His father trying to understand his child, trying to understand what Echo was doing, what Echo was thinking, how Echo was managing to come up with these answers very quickly. As it turned out, as his father recounts the story, what Echo was doing was he was seeing the number sequence go off into infinity and then simply choosing the right number. And taking that number out and saying, there's your answer. Now, if you can see any number sequence going off into infinity, it's dead easy to pick out the right one. But that's the kind of thing that I mean when I say us dyslexics, we think in fully interactive, three-dimensional environments. When I walk into a room, I don't distinguish between the table, the chairs, or the wall, or even the people inside. It's one object and I take it all in at once. You'll find, naturally speaking, dyslexics automatically do this, so a lot of them are highly cognitively aware of their surroundings. And this is a failing in the way modern education deals with dyslexia, because they teach us to suppress it, not intentionally. Often they have the best of intentions, and I'm trying to shed some light on this and bring a new idea to the fold that maybe there's another way of doing it. Ronald D. Davis is a brilliant author, and was a major reference in my thesis. One of the things that he talks about, and this is something that he uses when he himself is teaching dyslexics, both children and adults, on how to use their dyslexia, is he reteaches the alphabet. Now, as kids, many kids all over the world and today learn the alphabet as part of how to learn to read. The problem is that a dyslexic doesn't think words on a page. They think physical stuff. So when you hand a dyslexic a straightforward alphabet, they see the alphabet running off the page because to them there's nothing physical there. So what Ronald does, and it works very effectively, is he gets the dyslexics to make 2 or 3 letters a day out of clay, a big case and a small case. Now they have something physical. Now they understand what an A or a B or a C is, because they physically spent a couple of minutes making it out of clay. And only once they have relearned or learned for the first time gone through the entire alphabet and they know all the letters, then they learn the alphabet, but as a way to learn alphabetical order, not to read. An example of this, where this was done in an earlier version for myself as a child, my mother, being a dyslexic herself, picked up that I was dyslexic very young. And when I was learning to read, one of the things that she did with me to help me learn to read was something called paired reading. At the time, it was a very new concept. It was quite simple. Every day I would open up a book and I'd have my mother there and I'd point to the words and I'd be reading. And when I got to a word that I was stuck with, or that I got wrong, or that I didn't understand, my mother would simply give me the word, I'd repeat it back to her, and we'd carry on. There was no aberration, there was no telling me about something wrong. My reading improved. In fact, I learned to read that way, and I learned so much so quickly that literally within 3 or 4 months I was a full 3 years ahead of my classmates. It got so bad, my teacher actually turned around to me and said, "Aidan, I've got no more books to give you. You've read all the books for the next 3 years. All the assigned reading for the next 3 years I went through in less than 6 months." Because of this technique that my mother was using, and because that's the kind of thing that we did, and it was so extremely powerful. To me, reading the words was now something that I did with my mother. I associated a feeling of companionship with her. I had her hand on my shoulder, and I could hear her voice as we were both reading the book together. My level of reading stayed with me right up through school, and through school I was actually known for my poetry. To this day, I love reading. I can get lost in a good book. But I'm dyslexic. That doesn't make sense, because dyslexics aren't supposed to be good at reading, and yet I love reading. And that's what I want you to take away from this video, and what I want you to take away from my thesis. Next week we'll explore this idea further, that a dyslexic thinks in fully interactive, three-dimensional environments. So when you're dealing with a dyslexic, understand that even though the two of you are talking face to face, he's not seeing just you. He's seeing everything about you. And if you care for the dyslexic, try and help him bring that out. Because I can tell you this much, that thesis was a life-changing moment for me. And it really did change the way I see the world. And for the better. It was as if curtains were coming away from my eyes. We'll explore this idea more next week, because I want to provide more evidence for this. And I want to provide studies for where this was done. So subscribe if you haven't, and leave a question or a comment, and I'll do what I can to answer any questions. Comment, let me know what you think. And if you have any information that you think might be helpful, leave it in the comments and we'll take a look at that.